Namaskar. Today is a day of celebration of a different kind. Today, on the World Book Day, it is a celebration time for the creators, that is authors and illustrators, producers, that is publishers, and end consumers, that is readers. The world has seen many festivals and celebrations over past 5000 years. But it is the celebration of reading on the World Book Day, and that is not limited to one religion or country or caste or creed. It is for the human beings and the joy of reading. A life spent without reflection is a life not well lived. Same way, a life spent without reading books is not a life well spent. As Roman philosopher Cicero said more than 2000 years ago, a home without books is a body without soul. Books not only enhance our knowledge and awareness of the external world, but often inspire us to explore the inner worlds. Friends, every year Sahitya Akademi organizes a panel discussion on the importance, impact, and the role of books, featuring distinguished personalities from various walks of life. Due to the current situation that is prevalent, we could not physically organize the meeting. We have requested Janab Sri Gulzar Sahab, Mrs. Anita Nair, Sri Alok Mehta ji, Professor Sachidanand Joshi ji, Sri P.S. Narasimha ji, Dr. Sanjeev Chopra ji, and Dr. A.P. Maheswari ji, and we are deeply indebted to all of them for accepting our request and sending us their messages. Hope all of you enjoy them. Thank you.
नमस्कार, मैं हूं आलोक मेहता। पत्रकारिता से जुड़ा हुआ हूं, लेखन से जुड़ा हुआ हूं, पुस्तकों से जुड़ा हुआ हूं और लगभग 1971 से भारतीय पत्रकारिता में दिल्ली में सक्रिय रहा, देश विदेश में भी रहा। और इस दृष्टि से विश्व पुस्तक दिवस पर साहित्य अकादमी की इस चर्चा में हिस्सा लेते हुए मुझे बहुत प्रसन्नता हो रही है, क्योंकि ऐसे अवसर पर जब पूरा देश ही नहीं पूरी दुनिया एक तरह से कोरोना के वायरस से संघर्ष कर रही है और उससे निपटने के लिए पुस्तकों का सहारा ले रही है, ऐसे मौके पर विश्व पुस्तक दिवस को किसी न किसी रूप में याद किया जाए। याद क्या किया जाए? प्रतिदिन पुस्तक ही सहारा है, भारतीयों के लिए नहीं बल्कि दुनिया के हर क्षेत्र के लोगों के लिए पुस्तक का एक महत्व और अधिक समझ में आ रहा है। हम जब बात कर रहे हैं तो साहित्य अकादमी जो लगातार इस मुद्दे पर चर्चा करती है, कई कार्यक्रमों तो पुस्तकों पर करती है, पुस्तकें प्रकाशित करती है, लेकिन विश्व पुस्तक दिवस पर भी चर्चाएं भी आयोजित करती है। और इसलिए मैं साहित्य अकादमी को विशेष रूप से बधाई और शुभकामना देता हूं कि उन्होंने इस घड़ी में भी ऐसा काम अपना नहीं छोड़ा कि पुस्तकों को लेकर के उसकी महत्ता, खास करके उसकी भूमिका इस समाज के लिए क्या है, भारतीय समाज ही कहिए, मानव समाज के लिए कहना चाहिए कि जिस तरह से पूरी दुनिया में पुस्तक का महत्व है। और ख़ास करके श्रीनिवासराव जो साहित्य अकादमी के सचिव हैं, वो निरंतर प्रयास करते रहते हैं। इसलिए मुझे
Hello, my name is Anita Nair and I'm a writer. I have been writing for over 2 decades now, and it wouldn't be an exaggeration if I were to say books are my life. I'm seated here in what many would call a library, but what I would prefer to call as my sanctuary. For unless I have my books around me, I feel desolate and I feel very lonely. Words have been my friends and allies from the day I could read, but before there were the books in whom I saw living, breathing creatures, I saw these books as friends of mine. One of my earliest memories is of how I would drag a small table to an open row of shelves, stand on the table, and run my fingers along the line of books in my parents' living room. It wasn't a very long line of books, and there was just one shelf, but I wouldn't ever tire of stroking them. I would feel a visceral sense of joy from touching the ridge and curve of a book and repose. I knew the same sense of comfort and pleasure when I stroked a dog I had become friends with. Now, when this dog of mine, Lily, died of a snake bite, I became twice as attached to my books. And long before I could read, I knew these were companions who would never forsake me no matter what. And I even had a favorite book, a beige-brown, smallish book with a hardcover. It had tiny little flowers printed on the cover. When other children carried dolls and toys around, I put my book in a little cloth bag my mother had made me and carried it around. I even put it to bed as if it were a doll, and occasionally baby talked it. I don't think R.L. Stevenson would ever have imagined this happening to one of his books. To this day, my day begins and ends with a book in my bed. It was almost preordained that I would become a bookworm as soon as I could start reading, and in my eagerness to discover what myriad joys were contained within the covers of books, I started reading very early. As I devoured more and more books, I discovered that books had the magical ability to open different worlds for me, and in consequence, it opened the world out for me. As a writer, you would expect me to sing paeans about the importance of reading. It would seem like a vested interest that I encourage people to read. But it is because I'm a writer and my life has been built around books that I'm a great advocate of reading, not just for knowledge, but for pleasure as well. I would like to digress briefly here to share a personal anecdote of how books gave meaning to my existence. They say the earliest of our memories have a vital role in shaping who we turn out to be in our lives. My earliest memories were of the stories that I clamored for all the time. While I knew I wanted to write stories, I didn't think too much about how I was going to be a published author. As occupations go, writing is one profession most writers bumble into. I really don't know of any writers of consequence who woke up one morning and announced, "Good morning world, I think I'll be a writer." If I were to ask myself whether I could trace the moment of truth or when I knew what I wanted to do with my life, then I would have to pause at a bookshop called Shakespeare and Company in Manhattan. There I was in 1990, too broke to do anything but browse, when I chanced upon a row of shelves with a runner that read, "Arranged by the author in order of preference." That was it. That was all I wanted. Neither fame nor money, awards or movie rights. All I wanted was a shelf full of books in a bookshop and a runner that said "Arranged by the author in order of preference." With this end in sight, I at least knew where to begin. Research tells us that people who read books have a greater expanse of knowledge than people who do not. This length and breadth of knowledge helps them create a place for themselves in the society they are part of. But where do these effects come from? How is it possible that books can do this? And why are books important for society? Literature is too ponderous a word, and probably one reason why some people shy away from reading. Let's call them storybooks instead. There is a story in a poem or a memoir as there is in fiction. There is a situation and there is an escape from it. A resolution of some sort occurs no matter what form the story is disguised in. And it is here we as readers of books stand to enhance our lives. As we read about characters and situations, the complexities of life and the human condition, we learn to empathize, to step into the shoes, if not the skins, of the people we read about, and to understand that it is possible to have another perspective which may not be ours. Nevertheless, those points of view are no less significant or valid. Books teach us empathy. Books make us sustain our empathy. Books make us more understanding of what it is to be human with warts, scars, and flaws. I was reading an essay written by Neil Gaiman in 2013, and this is what he says. Open quotes. I was once in New York and I listened to a talk about the building of private prisons, a huge growth industry in America. The prison industry needs to plan its future growth. How many cells are they going to need? How many prisoners are there going to be 15 years from now? And they found they could predict it very easily using a pretty simple algorithm based on asking what percentage of 10 and 11-year-olds couldn't read. And certainly couldn't read for pleasure. It's not one-to-one. You can't say that a literate society has no criminality, but there are very real correlations. Books encourage reflection. They make us question norms and dictates. Books allow us to see that there are many dimensions to even an absolute truth. Books teach us to think, and increasingly, as the society we live in is fractured by multiple monsters, be it religion, or political ideology, disease and war, poverty and crony capitalism, it is imperative that we have something to guide our thoughts and thereby our decisions. Books and reading have more than a metaphysical role to play in our lives. They have a very practical application. A key area that books help with is the development of cognitive skills. Reading books every day as a solitary activity results in a clearly lower mortality risk. As a cognitively stimulating activity, reading books also result in a reduced risk of dementia developing. Besides this, books enhance employability of a person. A major European study produced a picture of the influence that language skills have on the workflow. People who are highly literate often have better paid work than less literate individuals. They have permanent employment contracts more often. These differences can be related directly to language skills even after they have been corrected for the educational level, gender, age, ethnicity, and parental education. People who read books from a young age develop higher general intelligence on average than people who read less often. Reading books also helps in developing a general worldview. It's also known that a mere 6 months of reading skills training for less literate individuals was enough to have a positive effect on the connections and pathways being laid in the brain. Books have a direct effect on people's self-image. As we transport ourselves into becoming the characters we are reading about, we are for a while not tied to the restrictions of our own self and can imagine that we are absolutely anybody. We could be a veterinary surgeon, we could be a pilot, we could be a soldier, we could be a terrorist, we could be a shopkeeper, we could be a car mechanic, we could be anything. And this helps us expand the limits of our lives and give us a real understanding of what we could do to deal with everyday issues. And books save lives. There is a lovely true story of how a World War I soldier from England was saved because of a book. Leonard Knight, 17 years of age, had put a pocket Bible in the breast pocket of his uniform when he was shot at by an enemy soldier. The German bullet penetrated the hardback front cover but was stopped from traveling any further by the thickness of the book. Incredibly, the bullet halted around 50 pages from the end, and Leonard escaped without a scratch. Every time I travel to a new place, the first thing I do is to look for old books. I know a firm sense of belonging then. It doesn't matter which part of the world I am in, all bookshops smell the same. All bookshops feel the same. And when I hold a book in my hand, I feel as if I have captured time in my palm by simply holding a book whose pages emit the sweet and cloying fragrance of age. And as if by inhaling this intoxicating fragrance, part memory, part organic, I can feel a tie bonding me to that place. More than anything else, I find in these pages the ability to be able to transmigrate into the lives of the characters so that their joys, their anguish, their dreams and damnation become mine. In his Nobel lecture, Orhan Pamuk says, the starting point of true literature is the man who shuts himself up in his room with his books. But once we shut ourselves away, we soon discover that we are not as alone as we thought. We are in the company of the words of those who came before us, of other people's stories, other people's books, other people's words. It's inevitable that every writer constructs in his or her mind an inner room. In this room are the words of writers before us, abstracts and the very real, descriptions and dialogue, a scene, a character. Eventually, we settle on a few who then go on to become the angels in the room. Companions who sit with you in your lonely hours, cicerones who lead the way, friends who never tell you why bother, critics who do not mince words if you fill pages with indifferent, mediocre prose. I think of that inner room and of the angels in my room. Wisdom hath builded her house, she hath hewn out of 7 pillars, says the Old Testament, and so I carved my literary wisdom from 7 streams of writing. Fiction, poetry, memoirs, biographies, travelogues, literary non-fiction, and the correspondence of words and writers. Some of these may not even be recognized as literature, and yet, what does it matter? For they all have this in common, an acute understanding of the human behavior and an invaluable lesson, the importance of tomorrow. Despite all the odds, despite the suffering and torment, despite everything that can shred even hope into fragments of nothing, our tomorrows emerge from our here and now. Our tomorrows are linked to nature and people. Listen to this. This is a poem by Langston Hughes called Dream Deferred. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode? And this is why we need to dream of a tomorrow where our dreams may come true. The angels in my library, my books don't ask much of me, but they do demand an honesty, for that is what hallmarks each one of them. Unless a book rings of truth, you will never find a reader, they tell me each time. I sit before an empty page, nibbling at the end of my pen, tasting ink and fear in my mouth, not knowing what to write, and then the angels in my library tell me, write from your heart and you will find people to read it. Writers have always had to deal with both admiration and vitriol, and yet they have managed to do what they did best. Write stories that people want to read. Eventually, that is what every writer hopes for, readers. And so on World Book Day, I would urge everyone to pick up a book, an old favorite or a new discovery, a tattered second-hand book or a brand new one, still smelling of printer's ink, and dive into it. We need books, and books need us. Once we recognize this, our tomorrow is in secure hands. Thank you.
नमस्कार, मैं डॉक्टर ए.पी. महेश्वरी वर्तमान में सीआरपीएफ के मुखिया के रूप में सेवारत हूँ। साहित्य अकादमी से जुड़ा रहा हूँ, इसलिए आज साहित्य अकादमी ने मुझे मौका दिया है कि मैं आपसे मुखातिब हूँ, आपसे रूबरू हूँ। विश्व पुस्तक दिवस के दिन मैं आज आप सभी का अभिनंदन करता हूँ और ये अवसर देने के लिए साहित्य अकादमी का शुक्राना भी करता हूँ। पुस्तकें भी कमाल करती हैं। अगर आप मुझसे पूछें तो वाकई में जीवन पुष्पित एवं पल्लवित होता है तो पुस्तकों से। और आप पूछेंगे इसमें खास क्या है। हम ही प्रथम व्यक्ति नहीं हैं। कालांतर में ओवर द वेरियस टाइम लाइन्स कई लोगों ने यह जीवन जिया है और इसी प्रकार देश देशांतर अक्रॉस द स्पेस भी बहुत फर्क है। प्रकृति के कई रूप हैं, उसमें कई संस्कृतियों ने जन्म लिया और जब हम किताबें पढ़ते हैं तो हमें एहसास होता है कि मानवता के, मानव प्रकृति के कितने रूप हैं, कितने आभास हैं, कितने भाव हैं। हर एक व्यक्ति का अपना अनुभव होता है और जब उस अनुभव को वे व्यक्ति लिख के जाता है, कहने में और लिखने में भी बहुत अंतर होता है। और जब उसको लिखता है, उस भाव को अगर वो बहुत ही मार्मिक रूप से लिखा गया है, वो चित्रण अच्छा है, तो उसकी कोई सीमा नहीं रहती। हर व्यक्ति उससे पढ़ता है, प्रभावित होता है। मैं स्वयं का ही आपको उदाहरण दूं। मैं राजस्थान में एक गांव कड़ैल का रहने वाला हूँ। वहाँ से मेरा संबंध रहा है। जातक कथाएं पढ़ी, पंचतंत्र पढ़ा और फिर जब स्कूल में, कॉलेज में गए तो और भाषाओं की भी किताबें पढ़ी, वहाँ का भी साहित्य पढ़ा, बहुत सा अनुवादित साहित्य पढ़ा और उससे मालूम पड़ता है कि किस प्रकार अलग अलग परिस्थितियों में जीवन का उद्भव हुआ है, किस प्रकार, लेकिन मूल भाव वही रहते हैं। वही प्रेम, सानिध्य, दया, क्षमा, करुणा, यही वो शाश्वत भाव हैं जो कि हर समाज को जोड़े रखते हैं। बल्कि मैं ये कहना चाहूँगा कि किताबें जो हैं वो हमारे सोच को प्रभावित करती हैं, हमारी जीवन शैली को प्रभावित करती हैं। और एक ने इसलिए बहुत बढ़िया कहा है कि सोच बंजर जमीन न हो जाए, सोच बंजर जमीन न हो जाए, तुम किताबों से दोस्ती बनाए रखना। और हमारे पुराने जितने लोग हैं अपने अनुभव के आधार पर यही कह गए हैं कि अच्छी संगत और अच्छी पुस्तकों का अध्ययन आपके जीवन को बदल सकता है। और उस माने में मैं आपसे ये भी शेयर करना चाहूँगी, मुझे सौभाग्य मिला कि मैं शिवानी जी के सानिध्य में रहा, नीरज जी के सानिध्य में रहा और रस्किन बॉन्ड साहब से भी मेरा काफ़ी अच्छा सानिध्य रहा। उन्होंने मेरे जीवन पर प्रभाव डाला। और शिवानी जी ने तो यहाँ तक कहा कि महेश्वरी जी, आप तो एक खुद पुलिस अधिकारी हैं, इतने इन्वेस्टिगेशंस करते हैं, हर एक इन्वेस्टिगेशन में एक एक आदमी की जीवनी उभर करके आती है, आप खुद क्यों नहीं लिखना शुरू करते? तो मैंने वहाँ से लिखना शुरू किया। और बाद में जब मैं सीआरपीएफ में आया तो मैंने नॉर्थ ईस्ट की इंसर्जेंसी देखी। जब मेरी असम में नियुक्ति हुई, मैंने जम्मू कश्मीर का टेररिज्म देखा, वहाँ के कन्फ्लिक्ट जोन में किस तरह से ज़िंदगी अटकी हुई है, क्या था और किस प्रकार से कन्फ्लिक्ट जोन ने वहाँ की स्थिति को बदल दिया। और इसी प्रकार वामपंथी उग्रवाद से प्रभावित क्षेत्रों में जीवन शैलियों को मैंने देखा। वहाँ के आदिवासियों की भी अपनी कथाएं हैं, अपनी संस्कृति है जो अपने आप में बहुत कुछ कह जाती है और जो परिवर्तित स्थितियाँ हैं उसको समझने में भी बहुत सहायक होती है। तो जीवन के कई रूप हैं, कई आयाम हैं और मैंने भी इसी के चलते उनको अभिव्यक्ति देना शुरू किया। साहित्य अकादमी के सानिध्य में मैं आया और आप लोगों से जो जो वार्ता होती है वैसे मेरा ये विश्वास दृढ़ होता चला जाता है कि हमारे सोच और हमारा भाव हमारी पुस्तकों की देन है। वो अलग बात है कि आजकल ई पुस्तकें आ गई हैं, लेकिन फिर भी पुस्तकें अपनी हमारी आंतरिक कल्पना को जीवित रखती हैं, हमारे विश्लेषण करने की क्षमता को जीवित रखती हैं। बाहरी दुनिया से आंतरिक दुनिया में आने के लिए हमारी संस्कृति में ही नहीं बल्कि कई संस्कृतियों में इस बात पर सूफी संतों ने जोर दिया है, चाहे नानक की बात करें चाहे कबीर की बात करें, कि आंतरिक दुनिया में जब आप प्रवेश करते हैं तो वो अपने आप में एक अनंत है। कबीर ने कहा, आंख कान मुंह बंद कराओ, अनंत झुमका शब्द सुनाओ। और जब आप अनंत में जाते हैं तो आपको मालूम पड़ता है कि एक एक अक्षर में आप कैसा रम जाते हैं, एक नाम मात्र में आपको अनंत प्रसन्नता होती है। ये सब अनुभव पे आधारित है। संभवतः तर्क इसमें देना सुसंगत नहीं होगा। कोविड-19 के संघर्ष से हम सभी जूझ रहे हैं, तो ये आज का समय है हमारे जीवन के पुनर्विश्लेषण का, प्रकृति को सही रूप में समझने का। आज काफ़ी लोग 250 वर्ष 200 वर्ष पूर्व की शैलियों का अध्ययन कर रहे हैं कि कहाँ हम आ गए हैं, कहाँ हमें जाना है। ये किताबें हमें जीवन का मर्म समझाती हैं। ये किताबें हमें अपने जीवन को विश्लेषित करने में मदद करती हैं। मैं इस संकटपूर्ण स्थिति में आप सभी को सुरक्षित रहने की कामना करता हूँ। आप अच्छी किताबें पढ़ें, प्रसन्न रहें, सफल रहें। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। जय हिंद।
It's the World Book Day today. यूं में किताब कहलाता है उर्दू में, एक बड़ा मुकद्दस दिन है। ऐसे दिन किताब का जिक्र करना महबूब का जिक्र करने जैसा है। गालिब का एक मिसरा है, जिक्र उस परिवश का और फिर बयां अपना। बताइए किताब किसी परिवश से कम है क्या? हर खूबसूरत बात, हर खूबसूरत तज़किरा वहीं से शुरू होता है। किताबों से कभी गुजरो तो यूं किरदार मिलते हैं, गए वक्तों की ड्योढ़ी में खड़े कुछ यार मिलते हैं। आज के इस वर्ल्ड लॉकडाउन में जब लोगों के लिए दिन काटना मुश्किल हो रहा है, किताबों की अहमियत और भी ज्यादा बढ़ गई है। इस तन्हाई में अगर किताब साथ है तो कोई तन्हा नहीं होगा। उम्र खयाम की बात सुने तो कुछ ऐसा है, here with a loaf of bread, beneath the bow, a flask of wine, a book of verse, and thou beside me, singing in the wilderness, and wilderness is paradise enow. Let's celebrate the book today. It's a World Book Day today.
Namaskar. My name is P.S. Narasimha. I'm an advocate practicing in the Supreme Court. At the outset, I must thank Sahitya Akademi and particularly Mr. Sreenivasarao for giving me this opportunity. Being a lawyer, I want to share with you the books that have influenced me individually and also certain books that have influenced the legal discourse in our country. Books, in my opinion, are like living beings. They take birth, they are conveyed by the author to us, they come into our mind, they live with us, they influence us, they provoke us, they enable us to do certain things. It is also true that these ideas become dormant, they leave us and even depart us over a period of time. That's the reason why I think and compare them with living beings. One of the talking about books which have influenced me, the first book that has had a deep impact on me is Bhagavad Gita itself. It's a discourse between a teacher and an intelligent student. The questions that arise in his mind are no different from the questions that arise in our mind or anybody else's mind. He asks questions such as what is his relationship with his peers, with his relatives, with his parents, and particularly with the institution and the state. What are his obligations? What are his rights? What are his duties? These aspects are conveyed to him in different chapters, and choices are given to the individual, that is Arjuna, and the choices are many, and it's eventually for Arjuna to take a decision. That discourse in Bhagavad Gita has influenced me very much, and I strongly believe that it has influenced large number of people of our country, and our living has to a large extent been influenced by it, and one can see traces of that even in the freedom movement. The second book, which I think has again had an impact on me, is the book on Brahma Sutra Bhashyas by Shankara, that talks about the perspective of the life, the vision of a life, the relationship between an individual and ethereal. And the perspective given in that book has had a great impact on it. It could be seen in many judgments of the Supreme Court also. And that is a book which I liked reading and understanding again and again. Now, coming to influences through books that have been authored abroad, I think the book of Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith, which is said to be the foundation of a free economy, a market economy, of course has influenced the world. It has influenced India also. It was a book which talked about division of labor. It talked about market economy. It has created capitalism and free market system, and we have been influenced by that book, though we have stated to be ours to be a socialistic economy. But nevertheless, the free market is clearly an influence of that book. 100 years later, yet another book was again influenced by the previous book, that is by Karl Marx, Das Kapital, where he talks about exploitation of labor and brings in much more human touch to the economy, and that has come to influence half of the globe, and we were definitely influenced when we created constitution for ourselves. In the teeth of these competing principles, our own father of nation, Gandhiji, in his book talks about a situation where a capitalist says that truth is the cash value of an idea, and Marxist would say that private property is nothing but theft. Gandhiji propounded that principle that private property is trust. That was a beautiful idea, and you would see that it emanated from the principles that had originated and remained in our country. The principles that we would see even in Bhagavad Gita. If private property is trust, what he is trying to say is that the obligation is on you, how you are going to deal with the society. It is not superimposed on you. This is the virtue jurisprudence that he is talking about, which has influenced him, which has influenced a lot of us, large number of segments of us. And he talks about the morality, he talks about the obligations of individuals all the time. We go back on this principle in the context of public governance. We had the book authored by Kautilya's Arthashastra, which set the principle of governance not only for individuals but also to the state. He would prescribe again the ancient principles that the law, the king is not higher than law. That is perhaps the oldest declaration of the concept of rule of law. And king could be punished for violation, which means that the principle of equality was set in, that anyone and everyone is governed by one rule and everybody has to abide by that rule. We had Dicey in his great book, The Introduction to Constitutional Law, which he had authored while he was in the Trinity College in London. He laid great emphasis on the concept of rule of law, and this thereafter has influenced every constitution and even the Constitution of India. We have absorbed that principle, and for us, rule of law is a very major principle. And if we trace it back, we will trace it back to that very book authored by Dicey. Interestingly, another idea that was propounded by the author Montesquieu in his book, that as power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely, one has to bifurcate power wherever it is, and he, under the constitutional law, bifurcated into executive, legislature and judiciary. Look at the impact that this book had on the public governance and constitutional law. The impact is simply this, that we have under many constitutions, including ours, a separate legislature, which is the parliament at the center, we have the government, which is the executive, and we have judiciary. This also laid foundation to another concept, that is the independence of judiciary. This had been the impact of this very book, which created bifurcation of state into three organs, and the influence of that book is directly seen under the Constitution of India. When we have adopted these, we were adopting them with necessary changes. These changes were in the context of what suited us, what suits us, and on the basis of how we look at our people, the perspectives that we have in our societies, that rights and obligations that we consider towards one another. That has impacted our living, and each of them has been emanated and implemented on the basis of ideas that were sown in the books that were available to us at that point of time, and has been enriched and developed thereafter in very many books thereafter. That's the reason I think books are living beings, number one. Number two, they have a great role and a great impact on the society. With this short time, I think this is sufficient for me to indicate about these 4 books. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
किताबों को बार बार उलट कर पढ़ने से, बार बार उलट कर देखने से, उनमें लिखे हुए संदर्भों को कई कई बार अपने दूसरे कामों के लिए उपयोग करने से जो आत्मीयता का बोध होता है, वो मुझे लगता है कि टेक्नोलॉजी के ज़रिए जो चीज़ें हमें पुस्तकें उपलब्ध होती हैं उससे नहीं होता। इसलिए किताबें आपकी सबसे अच्छी दोस्त होती हैं। न सिर्फ दोस्त होती हैं, मुझे तो लगता है कि किताबें आपके परिवार का एक सदस्य होती हैं, आपके पारिवारिक जीवन का एक हिस्सा होती हैं। इसलिए किताबों को सहेजना, किताबों को संवारना, किताबों को अपने साथ रखना हम सब के जीवन में एक बहुत जरूरी, एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण काम है। विश्व पुस्तक दिवस के अवसर पर हम सबको किताबों की इस महत्ता को एक बार फिर से सोचना चाहिए, समझना चाहिए। जैसे ही हम किताबों की इस महत्ता को सोचेंगे, समझेंगे, हमें महसूस होगा कि जीवन में मार्गदर्शन देने के लिए हमारे पास कितना बड़ा भंडार, कितना महत्वपूर्ण स्रोत उपलब्ध है। मौजूदा संकट के दौर में जब वैश्विक संकट है, तब भी हम देख रहे हैं कि ये जो किताबें हैं यही हैं हमारी साथी, जो हमें इस एकांतवास में, जो इस लॉकडाउन में हमारे साथ निभा रही हैं। विश्व पुस्तक दिवस आप सभी के लिए शुभ हो, मंगलमय हो, और हम एक बार फिर से संकल्प करें कि हम पुस्तक की संस्कृति, पढ़ने की संस्कृति को शाश्वत रखेंगे, चिरंतर रखेंगे, अक्षुण्ण रखेंगे। आप सभी को बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं।
The role of books in our society. What a wonderful subject to speak on. In fact, I couldn't have wanted anything better than to be able to address you all during this period of lockdown on the impact of books in our society, and also the impact which books have had on my life and the potential of books in the lives of every individual. I speak to you both as the director of the Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy of Administration, which has a brilliant collection of books in our Gandhi Smriti Library, and also as the curator of a literature festival, The Valley of Words. I find a sense of great fulfillment in sharing my thoughts on something so close to my heart. I've always lived with books around me and cannot imagine what my world would have been without books. It also gives me a chance to reflect on what life is like for those who've not had the privilege of transporting themselves to so many different worlds because they did not have access to books or libraries or language or literacy. Let me also say that books written and read during a time span also reflect the nature of society, because each book conveys the temporal and spatial dimensions. When one reads an epic, for example, whether you read the Ramayana or you read the Iliad, you get transported to those times. And the language engaged in the text, the range of characters, the geography in which the events and incidents take place, the issues on which battles are fought and lost, and what happens after the battle, besides, of course, expressions of love, passion, compassion, hate, horror, awe, all of these are mirror to society and also set the foundation for themes and heroes for the next generation. For instance, what we read now or what I read today is going to impact on how I think and what I convey as message to the next generation. I would start, for example, by talking about a book by Surendranath Banerjee, The Making of a Nation. This is the first book written by an ICS officer which reflects his times, which reflects his struggles. Over the last 80 to 100 years, so many books have been written on the civil services, and all these books on civil services reflect the thoughts, the feelings, the anticipations, the angst of a set of people who were working in governance at that time. And as we see how autobiographical writings, even in a small world of governance, will show us that a book written in, say, 1910 would be so different from a book written in 2010, even though both could have been written in the same district and over a set of experiences which was nearly similar. I also wish to emphasize that only when books are written does society make a transition from a community with an oral history to a linguistic identity, and which has the possibility of evolving into higher forms of political organization. Therefore, religions and nations have always privileged books and authors, for they provide a continuity. Incidentally, so do those who dissent, because the writings of Charvak or of Martin Luther King also provide the counterfactual through the books. We are so privileged in India that we have such a tradition of reading, writing, critiquing, that even our freedom struggle and the Renaissance, which preceded the freedom struggle, had a major impact of books on them. So whether it is Gandhi's Hind Swaraj, whether it is the writings of Tilak, whether it's the writings of Ambedkar, whether it is the treatise of Lala Hardayal, Some Hymns for Self-Culture, all these are books which affected the people in the 20s and 30s of the last century, which in turn led to the great freedom movement in our country. Let me now spend some time on the books which have had a major impact on my life. As I was growing up, I was fascinated by Indian authors writing in English as well as writers in Hindi and Punjabi. Amongst the Indian writers in English who made a major impact on my life were people like Mulk Rajanand, Khushwant Singh, Anita Desai, Ruth Power Jhabawala, Anita Desai, and many others. I must mention here that although I read a fair amount of English writers as well, Thomas Hardy, Charles Dickens, Shakespeare, Eliot, Bernard Shaw, I somehow or the other felt that it was easier for me to relate to the Indian situation because that's where I could feel the connection. And that's why I think it's very important that what you read, if it has a connection with the world around you, then you feel very connected to it. I enjoyed reading Amrita Pritam, I enjoyed reading Shivani, I've enjoyed reading Harbansh Rai Bachchan, Faiz Ahmad Faiz, Iqbal, Dushant Kumar, Rajinder Singh Bedi, Upendra Nath Ashk, Yashpal, and so many authors while I was growing up. Of course, once I joined the civil services, the readings have continued to deal with fiction, but non-fiction has taken a major part of my readings, and I have really enjoyed reading books